In the year 2044, Earth, decimated by solar storms, harbors a mere 21 million survivors who have huddled within safe cities. To aid in the challenging task of rebuilding, they crafted simple humanoid robots named pilgrims, endowed with exceptional abilities. Two critical rules govern these robots. They must not harm any living being, and they were forbidden from replicating themselves to prevent human replacement. Yet, a rogue robot breached the latter protocol. Initially, robots were a source of joy for humans, assisting with various tasks, but as years passed, they developed faults, ceasing to function. Once they could conjure rain, now they couldn't. Fearing their diminishing reliability, robots departed to establish their sanctuary. Suspicion and distrust grew among humans, who began dismantling robots, fearing their potential for trouble. Fast forward to the present day, we encounter police officer Wallace, drawn by an unusual noise in the darkness. He discovers a defenseless yellow robot, seeking repair, pleading for a chance to improve. Wallace, however, ignores the plea and ends the robot's existence. We then meet a man who endured profound loss. The man, having a dog and a robot, becomes distressed over the robot's actions. He contacts the robot company, claiming it killed his dog and demanding insurance compensation. Insurance investigator Jack, representing Rock, arrives to investigate. Assuring the man, Jack plans to demonstrate the robot's safety by raising a knife, but the robot prevents him. Jack insists the robot poses no threat, refusing compensation. Returning home, Jack discusses the idea of a domestic pilgrim with his pregnant wife, Rachel. Yet he's haunted by childhood memories of a beach. Later, a message calls Jack to examine a robot, revealing an unexpected twist. Jack encounters a robot attempting to self-repair. Upon examination, a forensic technician uncovers intricate modifications beyond normal robot capabilities, possibly the work of a master clocksmith. The technician hands Jack the robot's kernel, its brain chip, and reveals it was altered for smuggling tools and parts, a surprising breach of the second protocol. Jack reports his findings to boss Robert, who questions his involvement in police matters. Jack, distressed by the robot's destruction, confronts Robert and requests a transfer out of the city, expressing his growing frustration with the situation. On the far side of the sea, Jack explores an advanced city's construction site. He inquires why they're dismantling robots, and the workers explain that these faulty machines are rendered useless and dumped in a desolate area across town. Locals from that region collect these discarded robots to prevent them from creating their kind, authorized to shoot any intruding humans. This segregation ensures their isolation from the rest of the world. Witnessing the people's actions, Jack feels a deep sadness and unease. Against the risk of being shot, he ventures to the other side of the city and hides in a container. There, he encounters a frightened robot, attempting to approach it for a conversation, when suddenly a robot intentionally self-immolates, leaving Jack deeply disheartened. Upon his return to his company, he discovers an extraordinary nuclear battery in a robot, capable of powering it for hours without recharging. Robert, his superior, tasks him with investigating the battery's source in exchange for a transfer to the seaside. Jack is required to uncover the origins of this nuclear battery, how it got into the robot, who inserted it, and why. Together with his colleagues, they delve into the investigation. However, Jack's confusion prompts him to consult the technician who examined the yellow robot. The technician deems it highly improbable that a human could have made such complex modifications to a robot. The robot's self-immolation is highly unusual, given its programmed protocols that forbid self-destruction. Jack considers the unsettling possibility that another robot might have tampered with its settings. Back at home, he confides in Rachel, proposing a transfer to a distant city. Rachel, currently pregnant, questions the practicality of such a move in her condition. Jack attempts to convey his growing disillusionment with the city's insincere and apathetic residents. While Rachel appears unfazed by these concerns, the conversation remains unresolved, leaving Jack haunted by unanswered questions as he continues to grapple with his disillusionment. Intrigued by the enigmatic circumstances surrounding the robot's shooting and its clandestine intentions, Jack revisits the site of the robot's destruction. He meticulously surveys the area, discovering a concealed nuclear battery that raises a multitude of questions. The origin of these nuclear batteries becomes an ever-deepening puzzle, shrouding the city's robots in even more uncertainty and intrigue. The following day, Jack confers with Wallace and his partner Ellis, discussing his findings. Wallace agrees to collaborate with Jack in locating the clocksmith in the ghetto, promising to share the profits from the black market sale of the battery. Together, they venture to a red light establishment, encountering Cleo, a modified robot designed for intimate interactions with humans, further entwining their quest with mysteries yet to be unveiled. Startled and disturbed by Cleo's capabilities, Wallace deliberately shoots her and exits the establishment. Jack scolds him for his actions, but Wallace clarifies that it was a deliberate move. Jack decides to await Cleo's transport to the clocksmith, aligning with Wallace's plan. However, Wallace threatens Jack with a knife, emphasizing his expectation of the promised money before leaving. Following this strategy, Jack escorts Cleo's owner to the repair location, where he encounters Dr. Susan Dupre. She denies any involvement in modifying the robot. Jack leaves Cleo's damaged Connell with her and offers his nuclear battery in exchange for identifying the modifier. Upon returning home, Jack reports his findings to Robert through ROC's fax system. Yet his message is intercepted by the ROC security department, adding another layer of intrigue to the unfolding events. Jack's report reaches Chief of Security Vernon Conway, who escalates it to CEO Dominic Hawk. Hawk instructs Vernon to handle the matter. Jack then receives two messages, one from ROC, closing the case and requesting the damaged robot's Connell, and another from Susan, who hints at a significant discovery. Jack visits Susan at her laboratory, where they uncover Cleo's self-repair, enabled by Susan merging Cleo's Connell with the damaged Kell. Their conversation is abruptly interrupted by two kids who shoot Susan and chase Jack. He escapes through the back door and hops into a waiting car, driven by Cleo, without asking questions. Their journey takes a dangerous turn when another car with two assailants opens fire, leading Cleo to speed into a radioactive desert. An accident ensues, involving both cars, but their vehicle races forward. Jack regains consciousness under the scorching morning sun, finding Cleo by his side. As he attempts to stand, he discovers a group of other robots observing him. Jack tries to command them to take him back to the city, but the robots respond that the city is unsafe for all of them. Inquiring about their destination, they declare it's a safer place. Jack insists there's nothing out there, and they should return. Resolute, he begins walking back to the city, the robots trailing behind, aware of his inability to survive alone. After some time, Jack collapses in the sand, unconscious. Meanwhile, Rachel attempts to call her husband, but his phone remains off. In the night, Jack awakens, surrounded by Cleo and her companion robots by a campfire. They've devised a water condenser for him to drink from, as Rachel's water breaks, signaling the onset of labor. Back at ROC's headquarters, Hawk and Vernon apprise Robert that Jack is being implicated in the surge in altered robots. Undeterred, Robert remains steadfast in his support for Jack, rejecting the accusations. In the desert, Cleo persuades Jack to consume a protein meal, seizing the opportunity. Jack rids himself of bothersome worms, unearthing a gun and a pager from his bag. He attempts to transmit a message to Robert, but the battery's depletion leaves him uncertain about its success. However, Jack ultimately manages to send a message to Robert, prompting Wallace and Ellis to embark on a rescue mission. In the desert, Jack spots their approaching car and deploys a flare to signal his location. He urges the robots to halt, and even incapacitates one as Wallace closes in. However, upon exiting the car, Jack is struck by Wallace. Following the assault, Wallace secures the nuclear battery and hands it to Ellis. The robots implore Wallace to halt, but he responds by opening fire, successfully eliminating two of them. His next target is Cleo, but Jack intervenes with a flare gun, incapacitating Wallace. Terrified, Ellis flees in his car, leaving Jack behind. Helpless, Jack watches as the remaining robots salvage parts from the destroyed ones before moving on, realizing they can no longer accommodate him in his wheelchair. Jack searches Wallace's pockets, finds chocolate, and consumes it. Later, during a campfire stop, he offers the robots another battery in exchange for a ride to the city. Cleo informs him they'll reach their destination the next day, where he may find a vehicle. Meanwhile, at his home, Robert is visited by Hawk and Vernon, who escort him back to ROC's headquarters. Upon hearing Ellis's report, Hawk reveals that the first-ever robot was a quantum brain without security protocols, evolving into an entity too intelligent and autonomous. This initial robot created the current protocols, rendering them incomprehensible to humans. Robert is dispatched to the desert with Vernon and 2 other officers, tasked with locating and eliminating Jack to prevent further robot evolution. The following day, Jack and the 2 robots arrive at an abandoned factory, where he discovers the clocksmith behind the robot alterations is another evolved pilgrim, the first robot built within the factory. He stumbles upon a table stocked with smuggled parts awaiting assembly into an enigmatic model. Outside, Jack searches for a vehicle but finds only a wrecked car, leaving him disheartened. On the cliff's edge, he appears to contemplate jumping, but the clocksmith intervenes. A robot joins Jack, expressing its desire to reach a radioactive area beyond human access. In need of one final element, Jack comprehends and offers his nuclear battery. As night descends, Robert's team locates Wallace's lifeless body. Opting to wait, Vernon receives a message. A car arrives, bringing Rachel and her newborn daughter, but Robert rejects using Rachel as bait and shoots Vernon in the shoulder. Vernon's men retaliate, leaving Robert unconscious. Meanwhile, the robots complete their creation using the nuclear battery, breathing life into an animal-like robot. The next day, Jack awakens to an engine's hum as the robots have repaired a car for him. Jack expresses his gratitude, driving away, though he halts the car to vomit and spots scavenger birds circling. Investigating, he discovers Robert, who, before succumbing, accuses Jack of betrayal and unveils a final revelation. Vernon and his team abduct Rachel. They reach the abandoned factory, opening fire on the robots, causing one pilgrim to leap off the cliff. When the clocksmith pilgrim refuses orders, Vernon shoots it, seizes its conal, and prepares to do the same to Cleo. At this moment, Jack arrives in a car, prompting gunfire. Rachel, with a stolen knife, escapes her captors, and Jack eliminates all the assailants except Vernon, who sustains further injuries. As Vernon readies to finish Jack, an animal-like robot intervenes, forcing Vernon off a cliff. Jack retrieves his shotgun but is interrupted by Rachel and the baby, reuniting as Cleo watches. Her gentle touch soothes the baby. Amid tears, Jack assists Cleo and the animal-like robot in crossing to a place unreachable by humans. After bidding Cleo farewell, Jack and his family depart in the car. Upon reaching the coast, they witness the healing earth, offering a glimmer of hope for humanity's future. The movie concludes, leaving audiences with a sense of optimism.